Hi everyone, welcome to History on Trial, the Psychology of Identity. This is Dr. Tracy McCarthy, psychologist, attorney, and educator, and we are continuing with part 3 of the Amorite, AMUR dispersion, the diaspora, and we are looking at the third placement of the AMUR tribe. So we've looked at the AMUR tribe coming out of Eurasia, going into the Americas, and now we are going to locate the AMUR tribe in Africa. We're also going to look at some additional cognates and also a relationship between the Amorites, Amuri, and the Arameans. And we are also going to look at some symbology to round this out. If this appears on anything other than Dr. Tracy McCarthy, it is stolen and unauthorized. Let's get started. And as we look at the Amur tribe in Africa, let's just do a quick recap and reminder that the Amorites, also known as the Amuri, they are a semi-nomadic people with a broad diaspora. And so the diaspora that we are looking at now is the one in Africa. Now, this is just in terms of the name AMUR. So in terms of that AMUR tribe, that's what we are looking at now. There are so many cognates, however, that this dispersion is much larger than what we are discussing here in this small portion of the series. And so the Amorites are also known as the founders of the city of Mari. There is, of course, some discrepancy about whether the Mari came first or the Amorites came first. Now, there are a couple of notations here that are important. One is the reminder that the Amorites are known as highlanders. They are known as hillmen. They are known as people who live in mountains. And so when you think of Amorites and the cognates that go with that, you will often find that there is a relationship to hills and mountains. There's also a relationship between Amorite and this idea of giants. And so they were thought of as giants during that time. There's also another notation related to this interchangeable dynamic. And so they were sometimes known as Amorites, sometimes conflated with Amalekites, also known as Canaanites, and then also Hivites. And so there's a lot of conflation going on with this particular historical group. And here you see additional notations related to the Amorites. Again, you see them identified as giants. One important thing to note is that there were branches to this Amorite stock. And so you will see names that will sometimes be Amorite, but then you may see derivatives of that. And here you see the notation where they are identified with this idea of being mountaineers. So again, these highlanders. And what's interesting here is you have this idea of Amorites being related to being mountaineers, being high, and also being in that space that is now known as Syria, which was Aram, and that also being related to this idea of to be high and highlands. And again, here you see a number of cognates, and you again see Aramean being related to of the elevation and highly, meaning to be high. And here you see some additional notations related to Aramean and being high or lofty. And also there's a notation that indicates that it might not always be about being physically high in terms of like being on a mountain, but it also might relate to things that are physically high, socially high, and even being high in terms of attitude or this idea of being proud. And what's also interesting is this idea of Aramean being an ethnonym, which is related to he of the elevation. Okay, now we're going to switch gears and we're going to look at the earth and its inhabitants, and we're looking at Africa, and this is out of 1887, this writing is. And so we're going to see where the Amur tribe has been located in Africa. And as with the other AMUR tribes, you see here this dynamic of geography related to the tribal group. And so you also see this going on here in Africa, and you see the notations about the AMUR. Now, in this case, AMUR is also synonymous with mountain. And as with the other AMUR tribes, you see that the notation is that AMUR is related to the highlands. And here you see that the AMUR tribe is located in the area of Algeria and Morocco, and that the inhabitants of the tribe are known for having great prowess in terms of warfare. And this is a really interesting commentary related to the AMUR tribes of Africa. And you see that it says, all the towns throughout Mauritania are largely peopled by Moors, and Moors is in quotation marks. And then there's a qualifier, and it describes the Moors as an endlessly mixed race resulting from the fusion of Roman, Vandal, Arab, Berber, Italian, French, Spanish, and other Mediterranean elements. And down towards the bottom, you see other commentary related to them being in the highlands. And if you look very specifically where the arrows are, you see that there are other cognates there. So you see what looks like Moor, Moor, and AMUR, and these are all AMUR or Moor. And so you can see the AMUR tribes are characterized by a high degree of mixing in terms of lineage. What seems to be consistent, however, is this idea of AMUR being related to, or Amorite, being related to this idea of something that is high or lofty or chief or pinnacle, mountain, tall, giant. Something that is at the top, the pinnacle, something that is large, expansive, rising, and also the word Anakim. And we've talked previously about how Anakim is related to Anakin and also related to Skywalker. With the focus of Amorites being related to this idea of being high, large, lofty, large, there is the question of whether these entities that have been used to depict Amorites, whether these entities are actually the Amorites, or perhaps they are some deified entities. Perhaps these are entities, or these are depictions of that which was worshipped or deified by those who identified as Amorites. Now, we've looked at the Amorite dispersion, the Amuri dispersion into Africa, and we've identified some cognates related to the Amuri and the Aramaeans. And we've also looked at some symbology and this idea of Amorites and Aramaeans also being related to this idea of being lofty, large, giant, larger than life, mountain, high. So we've looked at that, and we've also looked at some symbology related to the possibility that these entities that have been presented as the Amorites might perhaps be better understood as idols or deified entities. And so this may actually be a situation where you're looking at images of that which was worshipped by the Amorites, or that might be worshipped by the Amorites. Identity can be a very complex dynamic. Remember, knowledge is power. Take care and see you soon.